I've decided to ask for divorce after my husband revealed that he found me repulsive the first time we made love. Original post. My husband of 2 years, together 5, and I were invited to my sister-in-law's birthday. We were having drinks, and my husband was getting drunk. He doesn't usually drink, so he gets drunk easily. I love him when he's a little bit groggy because he's very shy otherwise, and he let loose a little. My sister-in-law, husband's sister, calls herself incurably single, and she often laments about not meeting the one. She's very picky, and she's always pointing out the flaws of her dates. Well, she was doing that, and after complaining about her latest hookup, my husband interrupted her. He knew the guy in question apparently, and he disagreed with how she, the sister, perceived the guy. They were sparring for a little, and everyone was laughing because my sister-in-law is a very funny lady, and so is my husband. Finally, my husband told her that she was very high maintenance and always concentrated on the negative things. He then said to take him for example. He found me repulsive the first night we spent together, but he stuck it out and was determined to know me more, instead of throwing me away because he's an adult now and needed to start acting like one. Now look at me. I'm the happiest man on earth. My sister-in-law laughed and told him that's not how she worked. I thought what he said was horrible. The most horrible thing anybody has said about me. And yet nobody of those who were listening in seemed to react at all, like it was a totally normal thing to say. So I just said that I didn't know that's how he felt about me. I remember him going away on a trip the day after we slept together for the first time, and he wasn't available for 3 weeks. I started pondering, was he actually away or did he try to ghost me? On our way home, I asked him if he really went to that trip, and he smiled guiltily and said no. His plan was actually to not see me again. But there was something strong that made him contact me again, and that he was lucky he did because I turned out to be the love of his life. He was starting to fidget in his seat and ask me if something was wrong, and ask, surely you're not hurt by what I said. I told him that is the most appalling thing I've ever heard, and to hear it coming from him? I haven't spoken to him since Saturday. I don't know if I even want him anymore. We have a son together, 18 months old and a dog. I don't want to hurt our son. I'm trying to keep it together, but I just feel so numb. Will time heal something like this, or am I lying to myself? He says he's sorry, and he even cried when he saw me crying. And I only saw him crying once before when his dad passed away. Now for the top comments before reading the update. He could have said, I didn't think she was my type at first, but then I realized she was the love of my life, and that would have been probably fine. But repulsed? That's a horrible thing to say about your wife and the mother of your child. Yeah, this hurt my feelings just reading it. Years and years ago, I was smoking with an ex. We're both high, hanging out, laughing. Suddenly, he sniffs the air, leans in and sniffs me. Then goes, oh, phew. And I'm like, what? And he says to me, I smelled something weird and I thought it was you. It was like, fat girls aren't supposed to smell like fish. I was like, WTF? Never forgot it, lol. People like that suck. They might not say stupid things like that all the time, but they certainly treat you like it. I completely understand how this hurt you. The word repulsive is quite strong, especially to describe someone you love. I don't understand how a person could go from being repulsed by someone to then claim them to be the love of their life in a short amount of time. They're just two polar opposites. I think what appalled me the most is the fact that he said it so casually to his family. Yes, I know he was drunk, but the fact that no one was surprised or shocked to hear that leads me to believe he's talked about this before. If this is the only time he's ever made you feel like this, I think that couples therapy is a must. But if it isn't and he's made comments like this, big or small, I think this might be a bigger problem than you originally thought. Either way, don't let this destroy your confidence. Whatever happens, keep your self-respect and do what's best for you. He said it like 5 times. With a weird grimace like he is trying to taste a milk after expiration date and not sure how it should taste. Oh no, that's horrible. If it were me, I couldn't handle being disrespected like that. I think you should have a serious conversation with him and get his entire opinion of you out in the open. No, but then I fell in love, or it's the best thing I ever did. Just straightforward and honest, even if it hurts. If I'm being honest, it feels like he kind of views you as someone he settled with. Because he said, he stuck it out and determined to get to know you instead of throwing you away because he's an adult now and needed to start acting like one. If that's the case, you can do so much better. In my opinion, it's better to be alone than to be with someone who doesn't see your worth. Move on and find someone who loves you unconditionally, and not because they needed to start acting like an adult. That's exactly how I feel. Is it wrong to refuse to be settled for? Because I refused that. And now for the update. I don't know if this suffices as an update. I'm thankful for your support. I actually thought when I would write here, people would hate me and be against me because I'm moving too fast and throwing my marriage too easily. You can't imagine how happy I am that many of you literally could put themselves in my shoes and see it hurt. Believe me, I know myself and I know my heart. This is neither fast nor repulsive. There is no coming back for me. Maybe it's my pride, and I know pride is a sin for many people, but for me it was like something that broke inside of me, and suddenly I never want to be around my husband anymore. How could a marriage work when I can't even look at my significant other? And the very thought of him ever making love to me again makes me want to throw up. And the fact that he thought it was okay to announce to a room full of people, some of them not even friends or family, that he thought me repulsive. How was that okay? Him sitting there trying to convince his sister that sometimes you have to give lesser people a chance because they could turn out to be the love of their life. I have a totally different view in our marriage. I never thought him to be too good to be with me, and vice versa. We've always been on the same level in my mind. Equals. He has moved out now. Our son is too little for shared custody, so he's staying with me until he's older. I don't know the details yet because I have an appointment with my lawyer on Monday. Right now, I just want to mourn. I feel like he should have told me what he felt and let me decide if I wanted to continue. Our marriage was built on a lie and that he lured me in under false pretenses. I have spoken to my parents, brother, and his family, and they all support me. I'm lucky to have this love in my life. I am so sorry you are going through this. When I read your first post, my heart broke for you. What did your husband say when you told him about the divorce? I hope he's remorseful. He's very hurt, and I feel so guilty for causing him pain, but I can't continue this relationship. He should be the one who should feel guilty for the pain it caused you, not the other way around. I hope he apologized to you and realizes that was cruel. The fact he used the word repulsive is awful. I don't think he should have brought it up in a group setting in the first place, but he could have even said it in a better way. Like I wasn't sure how I felt after the first night. Yeah, even the first date I wasn't super attracted, but there was something there, so I went on another. Anything is better than repulsive. OP, be gentle on yourself. He brought this on himself. Did he just not think you would care? Ridiculous. My first date with my husband went horribly. Like I just kept messing it up. And only one random hobby we both enjoyed saved it. He will tell me it was an awful date, but never once in our decade relationship has he ever described me as repulsive or any other similar term. So no, you're not overreacting, and clearly this is something that would stick with you if you stayed in the relationship. I hope the best for you and your little one. Right, it's one thing to say, I didn't want to be more than friends, but then I realized I couldn't live without her. It's so different from calling someone repulsive. I'm even chill with. She wasn't really my type, but she's so much more than her looks. Even that is a little insulting, but if I knew that was the case, it wouldn't bother me. But letting a secret out like that in public? Nope. I've always been honest with my hubby that when we first met, he was far too skinny for my taste. I'd lose him if he stood the wrong way behind a lamppost, was what I said to my mom. His persistence and patience in the 2.5 weeks between our first and second dates was very hard to resist, and I'm very glad I didn't. I can't imagine using the word repulsive to describe the woman you claim to love. Have you asked him how he'd feel if you told him that he repulsed you? That the thought of being intimate with him made you feel physically sick? If you haven't, you should. You can't help your feelings. He apparently couldn't help feeling repulsed then. You can't help it now. No, I haven't told him that I'm repulsed by him. When I decided that I wanted a divorce, I saw no points in making it more complicated and hurt him back by telling he repulsed me. I think they mean asking him how he would feel if your positions were reversed. And he found out after all this time that that's how you felt, not that you actually do feel that way. Oh, okay. No, I haven't asked him anything. There will be time for talking. I'm just happy he's moved out now. Last story. Update. My 22 female boyfriend's 24 male coworker 32 female won't leave him or I alone. Original post. I 22 female have been dating my boyfriend for almost 5 years. A couple months ago, he started a new job with great benefits. I am so happy for him. His first job out of college gets 3 weeks of paid vacation, a 6-figure salary, extra paid time off in the summer, and a bunch of other great benefits. Well, a couple months into working there, a coworker of his, who I will call Liz for her privacy, took a big liking to him. It started off with normal friendly stuff like chatting and helping him. The day she found out he had a girlfriend, everything changed. She suddenly became very flirty. Apparently, she has asked a million times what I look like, what my personality is, what hobbies I like, and so much more. He always tries to keep their conversation strictly professional. Ever since she started doing this, he has asked to meet for lunch outside of the building more often so that she doesn't bother him in his office. Well, this past Friday, she came into his office asking what he was doing for lunch. He said meeting up with me at a cafe. She immediately jumped and asked if she could join, to which he said he'd prefer to spend it with just me. She then pouted and said, "She can't keep you all to herself. It's not fair." And he told her that she was being inappropriate. About an hour after lunch, I got a follow request on Instagram. It was her. What do? I feel bad that my boyfriend feels chased out of his office during lunch because of her. He's already talked to HR, but what happens if she escalates? Edit, I'm very worried she will show up at my job. I'm a personal trainer. Finding my social media is not very hard, and if she found my Instagram, I'm sure she has seen my profession. Most of his coworkers know me. However, I don't know if I feel very safe to do that. She has already shown that she's bold. When he showed her a photo of me on his desk, after she asked what I looked like for the billionth time, she became very sour. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like she was hoping that I was ugly. I don't like to be big-headed, and I'm only mentioning this because it's relevant, but I would consider myself attractive. I'm in shape and pretty, so I guess seeing that upset her. She apparently was super passive-aggressive and insecure for the rest of the day. Going out to lunch with her makes me afraid she'd do something towards me. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Make sure he keeps escalating to HR every time she crosses the line. In the meantime, have him keep very detailed records and have screenshots of any attempts she makes to contact either of you. Just know these things don't always work out the way we want them to, so have him be prepared to have to find another job, as unfair as that sounds. Knock on wood, but I don't think they would let him go. He's been there for 6 months and has been promoted twice because of the success it brings to the company. The company is also massive. They are one of the top entertainment companies in the world, so a story about them ignoring harassment would really hurt their image. Thank you for the advice. I would take advantage on that. He's valuable and they care about their reputation. If she doesn't stop soon, tell your boyfriend to tell HR that he will be making a police report on her and see what they do next. She's harassing him and creating an uncomfortable work environment. See what they do next. I was faced with a similar situation prior while I was with my ex. My older female coworker was making incessant passes at me, and HR wasn't doing anything. The next time she approached me to smack my butt, I stopped, looked her dead in the eyes and said, "This is blatant sexual harassment and it's making me feel very unsafe." Thankfully, she stopped after that. I'm so sorry that happened to you. The very last thing we have is blatant honesty. If your boyfriend feels unsafe, he needs to raise as many flags as he can because that's not okay. My best wishes to him. Thank you. I feel terrible for him. His first job out of college is a major success he worked so hard for, and she is spoiling it for him because she's a creep. I hate that he feels chased out of his office at lunch. It's just not fair. And now for the update. Some of you may remember my post from about 2 or 3 days ago. Well, after my boyfriend and I read some of your advice, we decided to use some of it. I just want to cut to the chase so people who don't care don't have to waste their time. She was given an official warning and moved to a different department. When my boyfriend went to work on Tuesday, he asked HR for an emergency meeting at lunch. During the morning, as presumed, Liz came to his office. She tried the same tactic as last time and said something like, "So, is she gonna finally start sharing you lunch this afternoon?" My boyfriend firmly told her, "Liz, this is not a professional conversation and I am uncomfortable. Please stop and leave my office unless you need something related to work." She got pouty and said, "Why can't you loosen up a little? I just want to spend time with my favorite coworker." And he said, "Please leave unless you have something work-related, because I'm uncomfortable." When lunch rolled around, instead of seeing him like usual, he had his meeting with HR. During the meeting, he presented a screenshot of her follow request to me and mentioned times that she had made him feel uncomfortable. Apparently, the HR team looked like they started sweating when he said he felt sexually harassed by her and promised him the situation would be fixed. We have no idea what happened during her and HR's meeting, but we know that she's moved to a different department and received a warning. My boyfriend and I are very much relieved. Thanks for all the people who commented trying to help us. Edit? Sorry, forgot to add this. My managers are fully aware of the situation and were super great about it when I told them. If she comes in, highly doubt it, and makes a scene, she will be immediately removed. Glad this got a happy ending to such an uncomfortable situation. Most times in my area, HR doesn't do anything. Depends what trigger words you use and if it's documented on paper. Once you put things in writing to HR and hit the sexual harassment words, if they don't take any action to alleviate the situation, it's a simple liability case if it continues. Keep us updated if she shows her butt. I very much doubt she will, but it's always good to take precautions. She's desperate for attention, but I don't think enough to embarrass herself that intensely. At least I hope not. You'd be surprised. I can't even fathom how she wasn't embarrassed the first couple of times being rejected for lunch by her boyfriend, and him tell her to leave him alone. More than likely, she just doesn't care. Honestly, good point. I'm just happy that my boyfriend can now eat in peace and feel comfortable in his office. I ruined my parents' relationship over reading mail. Original post. I, 24 female, don't want to say what I do for work, but let's just say it's the type of job that includes a lot of written letters from clients that are supposed to be confidential and only for my eyes. I'm fresh out of college and living with my parents so I can finish paying off for school. My work letters, of course, go to my parents' address since they live miles away from a post office and driving to a PO box is a huge pain. The issue started with my father. Ever since high school when I received mail, my dad would open it. Whenever I received Christmas/birthday cards in the mail with money in them, my dad would hand me the card and insist he'll keep the money for me until I demanded he hand it over. Any package I would order for myself, he would open and hand it to me. Sometimes, the products were used by him as well. The final straw was when he received my acceptance letter to my dream college, and instead of waiting for me to come home to open it, he opened it himself and called me while I was at work to congratulate me. I've spoken to my mother about how much this makes me feel uncomfortable, and she told me she'd speak to my father about it, to which he would apologize and not do it for a week, before doing it again the next week. I had also spoken to my dad about the confidentiality of the mail I would be receiving now that I'm working, and he says he understands. But it all came crashing down a few weeks ago. While I was working, my dad came into my room and handed me opened envelopes for my clients, and even tried to have a conversation about it with me. But I just ignored him until he got the hint and left. After work, I yelled at him for violating client confidentiality, to which he got defensive and said that I live in his house, and any mail sent to his house would be read by him. Furious, that next week I thought I would take revenge on my father by going to the mailbox and read his mail. But what I found was what ended my relationship with him. I had found credit card statements on jewelry and restaurants that were too fancy for my dad to go to alone. And I don't remember the last time my dad took my mom on a date, nor bought her new jewelry. I also found a letter addressed to my dad from a woman who stated how tired she was for hiding this relationship for so long and how she's so desperate for his letters to reach her. When my dad noticed the mailbox was empty, my dad ran back in the house as white as a ghost. He walked into the kitchen to see me and my mom in the kitchen reading his mail. Before the fighting could start, my mom asked me to leave the house. So I drove to my aunt's who lives 45 minutes away and explained everything. I came back after 2 days when my dad's stuff was gone. My mom told me my dad's living in a hotel now and she will be in contact with a divorce attorney. Turns out, my dad has been having an affair with a family friend, and we're hiding it through letters to leave no digital footprint. My dad ended up showing my mom the stash of letters he had, and she took photos of each and every single letter before she asked him to leave. I feel at fault because I at first wanted to be petty with my dad, but it unraveled into this huge event and made me think, no wonder he's been looking through my stuff. He was giving himself away. I also feel like I shattered my mom's world, since I can hear her cry every night about it since the incident. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You didn't ruin your parents' relationship. Your dad having an affair did. You just found out about it and gave your mom the chance to make an informed decision with all the facts on whether she wanted to be in a marriage with a cheater. I feel at fault because I at first wanted to be petty with my dad, but it unraveled into this huge event. Nope, your dad is the guilty party here. In the US, it's illegal to open other people's mail. It's unethical to read, let alone discuss, confidential information, especially when it's not even your job. Finally, your dad was cheating on your mom and clearly not giving her the attention and respect she deserves. He made a mess. You simply tripped over it. Yeah, I would have reported him to the feds a long time ago, especially actually stealing what was inside. She should still report him for reading the client mail if it doesn't hurt her job. His insane mail rule wasn't about invading your privacy. That was a bonus for him. It was about covering his butt for as long as possible. He did it to himself. Yep, he also 100% wanted to make sure his mistress didn't send his household any surprises in the mail. Yep, it would have come out eventually. If he was cheating with a family friend, then I would assume eventually she would have gotten fed up with waiting and just said screw it and confronted him at home. The fact that he hid it so long is surprising, but dirty secrets don't stay hidden forever. Edit/update. Thank you all so much. I wrote this all out last night drunk off my mind, and I never expected this much kindness from strangers. I'll go ahead and answer a few questions here and then give an update. 1. Was my dad using my money from the gifts to buy stuff for his mistress? I'm 50-50 on this answer. I received cards when I was young with money, and it was the same routine. Aunts and uncles would leave $100 per card, and my dad always gave them to me when I was younger. As I got older, obviously the money reduced to $20 to $40. I do believe my dad would give me back half my money in those cards back, which would make sense as to how he was able to make such huge expenses on his mistress. I need to collect proper evidence, so I plan on calling my aunts and uncles and other relatives who would send me money. 2. The mistress would send letters addressed as a business or a credit card company. If you ask me, they were doing the most. When my mom would check the mail, she would see the letters that were addressed to my dad as bills or some crazy BS that never opened them because she doesn't handle the bills. A lot of packages were sent by the mistress as well, which is why he went through my packages, and I don't want to imagine what kind of crap she was mailing him. Now for the update. Like I said before, it's been a few weeks since it happened. I've been doing my best to comfort my mother while she deals with all the legal business, and my dad's constant appeals to my mom to apologize and beg for forgiveness. I've been here to listen to her, and she keeps spiraling between wanting to forgive him and cursing him to hell. I told her my own personal opinion, which was to never take back a cheater. She did basically everything for him, and she shouldn't see it as her not being enough for him. That's his fault for not appreciating her. The mistress was also a married woman, and my mom reached out to her husband, sending him the letters she had taken photos of. Even had a long phone call with him about what was going on. He initiated a divorce, and the mistress is now angry at my father for not being more careful. The mistress's ex-husband, who I'll call Henry, has been a best friend of my mom's throughout the legal cases. I hear the mistress is still reaching out to him to forgive, which I honestly think is very funny, since my dad is doing the same thing. She was financially dependent on Henry, and my dad isn't making enough at his job to support the lifestyle she wants. Yesterday, Henry asked my mom to come out to lunch with him. They've been sad shut-ins for the past few days now, and they agreed to go and get some fresh air. I encouraged my mom to do such, and to call me if my dad or the mistress decide to show their faces when they went, just so I could pick her up. My dad hasn't apologized to me at all about reading my mail. In fact, he's called me and left me voicemails, telling me that this whole situation was my fault. Then go on crying, saying he regrets everything and he hopes he can still be my dad. I honestly don't know what to do with him right now, other than ignore him. I don't know if there will be another update, but I will if something major happens. Again, thank you so much for the supportive comments, and I hope some of what I said cleared things up for you all. Next story. I hate that my husband refuses to share his inheritance with his brother, but I don't know if it's my place to say anything. My female 37 husband, male 37, has an older half-brother, male 45. My father-in-law was married, and his wife cheated on him with his best friend. When he found out, he was devastated. According to others, he was never the same afterwards. He got divorced and never saw her or his son again. He got remarried and had my husband. He passed away a month ago, and my husband was devastated, and still is. In his will, father-in-law left everything to my husband and nothing to his other son. It broke me that he did this to his firstborn. Throughout the years, many tests were done and father-in-law is the father, and yet he hated his son as much as he hated his ex-wife. My brother-in-law didn't have a great life either, since his mother married her lover and got more children, and brother-in-law wasn't treated well by his stepdad. My husband refuses to share the inheritance, saying that he did nothing wrong and that his father would have left something if he wished. I don't know. I feel like my husband is acting out of greed and nothing else. My heart breaks for brother-in-law, who never had a love and security of having loving parents. My husband's actions are a huge turn-off for me too. I think of my children and to think they would be punished for something I do. I cry every night thinking about all of this. Am I out of place if I intervened? If I'd tried to meddle? I feel like I can't stand idle for much longer. If my wife had serious reservations about a decision I was making, I would want to know about it. I might not agree with her, and it might not change my decision, but I would hate to find out that she was quietly disappointed in me and telling the internet instead of me. I agree with this. I bounce everything off my husband, whether it directly impacts him or not, and he does the same. I would share my opinion and then drop it. At the end of the day, it's his call. OP, if the roles were reversed, what would your husband likely say to you? Do you think he would share similar reservations? Would he defer to you to decide what's best, being that it's your family? I find doing a role reversal can sometimes help clear things up. Does your husband have any relationship towards his brother? Because if not, then he doesn't owe him anything. Even if he does have a relationship with his brother, he still doesn't owe him anything. Would it be nice? Sure, but he owes him nothing. This would make sense as to why the husband doesn't feel the need to share it. He's probably thinking of his own family with OP while his estranged brother is a stranger to him. OP, you might want to consider this from another perspective. To you, family is blood. To others, family is those who you bond with. Maybe it's not a morality issue coming from your husband, but a way that he sees and understands family and what he's obligated to do. Exactly my point. If OP's husband barely even knows his brother, why is he entitled to the money? Also, I also want to know who asked who for the money. And if that's the case, I would say OP is reading too much into the situation and applying too much judgment without understanding versus knowing or hearing the reason for her husband's perspective. OP, I think you should suspend judgment for a bit here and stop ruminating on how you'd feel with your children. That's a bad track to be on, and you're making your husband into a character he might not be. It's definitely not your place to say anything about this. That is a family trauma that does not include you, and you saying something about it is going to stir the pot and just cause anger from your husband and bring up bad memories. He's completely right in saying his dad would have left the other son stuff if he wanted to. Leave this be. There's no way she knows exactly what went down. The brother could have rejected the father. We don't know. She really needs to stay out of it and not have feelings about it. She's being dramatic. Edit? I'm sorry. I've received over 500 comments and tens of chat requests. I can't read all of them, but thank you for the advice. I love my husband, and I always thought highly of him. I don't want that to change. I feel safe with him, and I don't want to lose that either. I need to give him time to grieve and be there for him now. But I know myself well. I will need to talk to him about all of this eventually, or it would affect my marriage in a negative way. Thank you and have a great weekend. Last story. Am I the a-hole for abandoning my parents? I, 22, abandoned my parents and don't plan on coming back. This all started back in my sophomore year of high school. I just finished the hardest year of my life at this private academy. The school was extremely strict, and I was used to public schools. My parents said in the beginning of the school year that it was only gonna last a year, and that I would be back in public schools once we finished moving. Till this day, I don't know why I didn't just go to my district school, but whatever. I ended up attending the rest of my high school years at that strict school and missed out on events that I've always wanted to be a part of, like prom or the senior pranks. I made some friends at the academy that weren't completely brainwashed by the system and were actually functional human beings. They were planning on going to college in Florida. I lived in Chicago and I thought it would be perfectly fine to go, since people leave their home state to go to college all the time. I was wrong. My parents started throwing a fit and said that if I didn't go according to their plan that they had set out, that I would miss out on inheriting the businesses that they owned. I was basically forced to stay because my entire career choice was made on the fact that I would run the businesses when my parents retire. Midway through my second year of college, they stopped paying my tuition fees and refused to answer any of my calls regarding why. So, I ended up dropping out of that college and instead went to a community college. I understand it's their money, but it was also their choice to put me in that college. I'm now switching career paths and heading into real estate because I can't handle the toxicity that comes from my parents. I ended up breaking contact with them and moved out of state. When I did, they called me and said that if I didn't come back, I wouldn't get my spot in the businesses. I'm currently living in Florida with my old high school friends. I know for sure I'm not getting any inheritance, but on the other hand, I'm also getting to make my own choices now. The only thing I've heard about them through family is that they ended up retiring early and now live in Puerto Rico. It sounds like they abandoned you, not you them. You just moved on with your life afterwards. Not a-hole. This, big time. Not a-hole. I don't need details, but I bet if OP thinks about it, this will not be the only manipulative scheming their parents have done. Not a-hole. OP, talk to someone in the financial aid at your school about how to assure they can no longer claim you as a dependent. Someone I love had to do this to help cover part of her college expenses, with grants and some financial aid. It might also assure you get a refund on taxes they want to claim. Each state is different, but a person I know was able to do this with some documentation and the help of state courts. The financial aid people at your college have potentially dealt with this, and they may be able to point you towards the step in the process. You may or may not need the grants and financial aid money, but it can take a while for this process. So better to start now just in case. Sorry your family's horrible. You don't deserve to be treated this way by people who claim to be adults. Don't be ashamed to get therapy, because it sounds like a lifetime of bad behavior and possible abuse on their parts. Many colleges have therapy access or offer support groups if you can't afford it on your own. Dealing with this while you're young will make the rest of your life easier. Ick, there's something wrong with them. The best thing you can do is stay no contact. Do you have siblings? I fear for them if you do. I have a half-sister in Guatemala, but my parents never took it to court for custody. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I was going to divorce him for going to his sister's wedding? Original post. So this is happening in real time, and I don't know if my emotions are super high right now or I'm completely in the right. My sister-in-law is getting married and I've been helping her plan her wedding, from the DJ to the makeup artist to hair, etc. She asked me to be in the wedding party. I agreed to that. My husband agreed to have me read a prayer at the church even though I'm not very religious, and to sponsor the wedding, which I was never asked for. Comes to today on our first dress fitting. I'm there with my mother-in-law, my sisters-in-law, and her future in-laws. Everyone was looking at bridesmaid dresses, and so was I. I was then in that moment told I was not in the wedding party. I was not allowed to be in the wedding photos, and would have to drive myself to the wedding due to my husband being in the groom's party. I was told I was basically the wedding planner and would need to leave after the ceremony while the wedding party took photos, to make sure the reception was being set up correctly. I walked away and texted my husband. I was upset, but didn't want to ruin his sister's big moment. She picked her dress and they continued to look at bridesmaid dresses. I told my sister-in-law I was leaving and congratulated her on the dress. I made it outside and began to cry, called my husband, and explained the situation to him. This isn't the first time his family has done this to me in the 9 years we've been together. They disrespected me and my marriage so many times. I explained I no longer wanted to attend the wedding, and he said, okay, but I still am. I told him if he wanted to, that was fine, but it would be the last time he allows his family to make me feel this way. He just said I'm being ridiculous, and my family agrees with him. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Nope, and follow through with it if he can't stick up for you. If you're petty, cancel everything you had a part in planning. Any money you spent, return any and everything. I said I was going to cancel the hair and makeup, but my husband told me that his sister is already in contact on her own. Kind of feels they used me for my resources. The fact that he knew that detail means he also knew what his sister was doing, and they'd planned for it. OB should pay a process server to serve her husband with divorce papers at the wedding. Forget waiting for the reception. I love this recommendation, especially since it will take the attention away from the bride and put it on the husband. He gets partial blame, and she doesn't have to be there to take the heat. She just needs to make sure to turn her phone off, but don't block anyone. You may need evidence to hand to the lawyer during the divorce proceedings to get a better deal. It depends on your petty level. 1. You agree to be the planner, and what do wedding planners need? Payment. You are not investing time, money, and effort without any of the benefits that a hired wedding planner would. But you're family. How could you do this? Well, I'm not family enough to be in any of the family pictures or to avoid being unceremoniously dumped out of the wedding party. So, 2. You don't attend and stick to your word. 3. You do number 1, then use any payment received to pay for your divorce lawyer. It's not just disrespect from his family or yours. It's the disrespect from your husband. He thinks it's fine for his sister to have you run ragged for her wedding, but it's okay, because he will see you at the reception when you've finished being her lackey, while all the other invited guests are enjoying themselves? Nope. I'd use the wedding day to move out, after talking to a lawyer of course, because that can lead to the house becoming his or something. I definitely get anything of value, papers, etc. out. Now for the update. I looked it up to give you the correct answer. Sponsors are the only people you legally need at your wedding. They act as witnesses to your marriage, and they're the ones who will sign your marriage certificate. Of course, aside from the legal aspect, they also act as godparents to you and your partner. Also, today was the wedding party pre-dinner to get to know one another. I was invited over a month ago with my husband, but I couldn't go today due to it being my mother's birthday. So my husband and I told his sister I could do the dress fitting, but not the dinner. So I'm confused as to why I needed to be at the dress fitting with all the bridesmaids and a wedding party dinner. She called all week to make sure I still be at the dress fitting. She was upset. But my mom has lung cancer and she's not doing well, so I wouldn't miss her birthday. My husband texted his sister and told her we weren't going to come. I'm not sure what she said back, but he was upset the whole dinner for my mom's birthday. The DJ is my brother's best friend, and the makeup artist is my stepsister. So I know I could tell them what's going on, and they cancel. Backstory. On Thanksgiving, my sister-in-law asked me and her 3 sisters to help her plan her wedding, so I wasn't the only person asked to help. I agreed then because I know the stress of planning a wedding alone. I picked out center pieces and helped with things she didn't know about, something new, old, etc. Ever since, I've been helping her with vendors and even picking out her wedding song. I think deep down, I'm not upset about not being the wedding. I just wish I didn't look stupid going to the dress fitting and looking at dresses. Like, I wish she would have just called me on the phone and been like, "Hey, there is a change of plans and you're no longer in a wedding party." Nope, it was done in front of my mother-in-law, her future mother-in-law, and a fiancé's sisters. I think everyone saw I took it by surprise when I was told. The bride used her little sister to be the one that told me because I know she didn't want to look like the bad guy. Despite me and my mother-in-law not having the best relationship, she doesn't allow her daughters to walk all over me, but she doesn't speak English, and I didn't know what was being said to me. After speaking with my husband when I got home from my mom's birthday, he said his sister asked him 2 weeks ago to walk her down the aisle due to their father passing and him being her only brother, and that if he doesn't attend the wedding, I will be opening the worst can of worms ever. I explained to him that he was supposed to walk with me, and that when I was removed from the wedding party, they changed what he was doing. He said I would walk her down the aisle but not go with them in the limo and not be in any photos. I know he's a huge mama's boy, so I will likely not be married in the upcoming weeks. The petty revenge? I thought about just attending the wedding, and when asked to give my prayer, just mentioning in front of the families how the bride and groom are huge cokeheads. The groom's family is extremely religious, and it would just ruin the wedding, but my husband knows how petty I can be and thought I have a master plan. Cancel what you can. Get rid of your current husband. Find a real husband. In that order. None of this is okay, and it shouldn't matter if your husband is a mama's boy. I married an only child mama's boy who lived with his mom for years as an adult after his parents separated. He still finds ways to value me and his mother at the same time. I really hope you don't go and pull back on everything that you had a part of. They can figure it out on their own. That one. Love is not a zero-sum game. More for a wife doesn't mean less for mom. The love expands and expresses itself differently. Yeah, I never understood people who acted like there's only so much love. And if you hand out so much, there'll be none left to give. As my mother always said, there's always love left in your heart to give, no matter how much you give out. Wow, I think I would start canceling everything I had arranged. Time to not be a doormat. I'm so sorry. I would absolutely cancel things I had arranged. And I wouldn't tell them either. I might mention it in the card I gave them. Oh, by the way, as you booted me out of the wedding, I figured you didn't need my help. So I canceled everything that I'd booked. I'm sure you'll be fine with this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad's wife to the wedding? I, 24 female, got engaged last May to my fiancé, 24 male. I'm very excited about it. But when it came down to planning, I knew that my parents would be a tough situation. My parents separated when I was 16 and didn't get officially divorced until 2020. My dad remarried in 2021, and I will refer to his wife as Sharon. During the initial separation, my sisters and I stayed with our mom. She was going through such a hard time. My dad in the beginning attempted to make an effort with my sisters and me, but it was very obvious that he was eager to start his new family. He eventually became a distant father, only really talking to us around holidays, taking Sharon and her kids on trips, and bonding with them. I missed my dad, but he seemed to have already moved on from us, and he was never a good person to communicate with. I still attempted to have some sort of relationship, even if it was at arm's length. I invited him to my high school and college graduation, which he attended both without Sharon. When Sharon and my dad got engaged, none of us were happy about it, but it was what he wanted. We went to the wedding. All three of us were very emotional about it, which family on my dad's side could tell, and tried to comfort us. I have never been mean to Sharon. I have always just sort of tolerated her. We never formed any kind of bond, and I only ever saw her if I was visiting my dad, which already was once in a while. The same applies for my sisters. So now being engaged, I've taken everything in. I decided I wanted my dad at my wedding, but just as my dad. He wouldn't get a +1 or anything of the sort. And to make things fair, I set the same rules for my mom. This past weekend I went to talk to him and Sharon. My fiancé was with me when I told him. I said that I meant no disrespect, but I had to also think of my mom, and that this would be easier. I also made it a point to tell him that my mom isn't allowed to bring anyone either. That if Sharon wanted to celebrate our wedding, we could always also do dinner another time. I thought letting them know in advance, since the wedding isn't until fall 2024, that he would, hopefully take it well, and still want to show up. I was emotional, and afterward he did hug me and told me that he would let me know their decision. I left feeling better, but things changed. On our way home, he called me. He asked if this was my decision, which I said yes to. Then he told me that we could do dinner another time, and that essentially his answer was no. I was upset, so I just said our goodbyes and that was that. Edit. Some ask why I don't want Sharon there, and I commented my explanation. Another suggested I add it here. She was part of the reason my father left. In no way do I consider my mother the better parent in everything. But she wanted to work and try. Sharon was my father's coworker. When he left, he immediately moved in with her. And if I'm honest, my sisters and I have never seen her as a stepmother, but more as our dad's girlfriend/wife. There's just no relationship there. I will admit, I never fully tried, but I was young when I was navigating everything, and I had no idea how to handle it. There was also no effort on her end. That has led to where I am today in my relationship with her and my father. Now for the comments. No a-holes here. You set boundaries, you respected them, but ultimately decided to not attend. You have every right to allow/disallow anyone you want to your wedding, but he has the right to decline your invite. It sounds like you both handled it well, and that he respects your decision. I mean, not attending your daughter's wedding after leaving your ex-wife or your now wife, and becoming a distant dad after the divorce, and you don't see him as an a-hole? Making this a boundary thing is wild. We're not here to make a verdict on that. We're adjudicating an OP's conflict. A-holes sometimes don't act like a-holes when given an opportunity. Sounds like the a-hole father did the right thing here. No a-holes. This is a tough one. I think ultimately no a-holes here. In your dad's defense, Your mom and him have been separated for 8 years now. Both should be able to be cordial in a public setting. And let's be real, Sharon isn't going anywhere. She'll be around for holidays, birthdays, celebrations for children if that's something you choose. It's not completely realistic to establish a baseline where your dad's partner is not permitted at big family moments. However, it does sound like your relationship with your dad has been strained since the separation, and that you two have never found your way fully back together. Nor does it sound like you and Sharon found some shared ground, so it makes sense why you may not want her there. The fact that they have been separated for 8 years doesn't change the fact that the dad is demanding that she allow the homewrecker that knowingly helped her dad destroy her family and caused real trauma to her mom attending her wedding, which is a complete a-hole move at 8 years, or even 40 years. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling everything I paid for Bridezilla? I, 22 female, have been friends with Ray, 21 female. Ray had been engaged since 2019, when she was 17. We were shocked when she told us, because she was so young back then, and settling down that young is not really common where I live. She just got married last April. As her friends, we were excited about the wedding. We already paid for dresses, as I am one of the bridesmaids, and held a bridal shower and bachelorette party in February, which I paid for most of it. They also asked me to donate the cake for the wedding because it was out of their budget, which I complied, and everything is set. Until something unexpected happened. My grandma passed away a few weeks before the wedding. It was a devastating time for me because I'm very close with my grandma. When I called Ray to tell her that my grandma had passed, she just asked, "You're still attending my wedding, right?" Like this is the most important day of my life. I was stunned that that was the first thing Ray said after I told her the news. After that, she never texted or called. Ray called me again to ask if I was going to the wedding. And I said no, because her wedding and my grandma's funeral are on the same day, and it will bring bad luck if my family attends the wedding after the funeral. One of the few superstitions that my family strictly follows. But we can be at the reception. A week before, she demanded we switch my grandma's funeral and her wedding as it's at the same church. But I told her that we couldn't do that because the church is the one who schedules the funeral. She just yelled at me, "But it's my wedding. How can you miss my wedding?" I looked at her confused, then slowly said, "It's my grandma's funeral." She stomped away like the child she is, and looked for her fiancé. Later that night, she tagged me in her post/rant about how I ruined her wedding, that I'm not her real friend because I won't attend, that she wasted her effort on me, and that I'm not welcome to her wedding anymore, and that she shouldn't have paid for me. Pay for what? Mind you, I paid for almost half of it. I catered to the requests she made because she's my friend. I screenshotted her post before she could delete it, and I showed it to my parents and told them about what happened. They were livid because Ray didn't even show an ounce of sympathy and pressured me to choose. So, my parents told me to refund a deposit for the dresses, makeup, and gifts, and cancel the cake, which I did. She called me furious. "You witch! What have you done? You ruined my wedding. How could you cancel everything?" I told her that since it was her wedding, she should pay for it. My parents, some of my friends and relatives agreed to what I did, but Ray on her side, especially those who didn't pay for anything, keeps calling me an a-hole for doing what I did. After thinking about it, I kind of feel that I am the a-hole. But am I really? Not the a-hole. She was asking for it, and she got it. You need to find a better friend anyway. She's just not worth your time. This former friend is acting like an entitled child. It's not OP's responsibility to pay for this girl's wedding. Her family can foot the bill for their child's wedding. Not the a-hole. You should not be paying for all that in the first place. If she can't afford a wedding, then she shouldn't have one. This girl is clearly not your friend and is so selfish. The only reason she is probably mad that you can't attend is because you are paying for so much. She doesn't even care about your feelings. So sorry for your loss, and hope you can find some better friends who care for your well-being. And it didn't sound like she's even the maid of honor, just one of the bridesmaids. How did that make sense that she pays for so many things? So disproportionate. It's so easy at a young age to confuse friends with vampires. Friendship goes both ways, not just me, and you.